Hey, it's Mike Hambright with FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for another exciting expert interview where I interview successful real estate investing experts and entrepreneurs in our industry. Today, I'm joined by Leo Clark. He's a full-time real estate investor and educator. Leo left the corporate world after 28 years to start in real estate investing back in 2010 and has evolved from primarily being focused on rehabbing to now focusing on new construction where he sees a huge opportunity. So Leo's had great success in building, whether it's infill lots or new development. And today he's going to share with us how to transition from rehabbing to new construction. He sees a huge opportunity here for rehabbers to move into this space, and he's going to share his story with us. So before we get started with Leo, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days with rates starting as low as 9%. For more information, call 888-296-1697. B2R Finance makes loans tailored specifically for rental investors. They can help you unlock equity from existing properties so you can get cash to grow your rental portfolio. That's huge, and it opens up lots of opportunities previously not available to rental investors. Need a loan? Call 855-819-4412. or visit b2rfinance.com today. National Real Estate Insurance Group is the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. We'd also like to thank Crestar Funding, Mid-Atlantic IRA, and Renters Warehouse. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Leo, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike. Good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. So this is really exciting to talk about because I told you beforehand, for years when we get phone calls of somebody saying a lead, hey, we have a lot for sale. We're like, no, we're not interested. We don't buy lots. We don't buy mobile homes. We don't buy multifamily. We've just basically been totally blinders on to single family homes, but it sounds like we might have been missing out here. So I'm excited to talk about it today.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Well, hey, before we get started, why don't you tell us your background? Because I'm a corporate refugee as well. I wasn't anywhere for 28 years, but I think a lot of our listeners are people that can identify with working for somebody else and then going into business for themselves. So can you maybe share your background?
Yeah, I was in the corporate world for 28 years. My last position was very, very multifaceted. I worked for a large worldwide corporation, and I had a lot of responsibility. They had a lot of demands on me, and I just didn't want to be that guy at 49 turning 50. I didn't want to be that go-to guy anymore. So I basically said, no, I don't want to be doing what you were asking me to be doing. So they kind of forced me to retire back in 2009, October. So I did have a plan. I literally left the corporate world at the height of the unemployment with no plan, no resume, because I never had to build a resume. I was always headhunted. So I never had to go interview and build a resume and put my name out there and constantly be looking for a job per se. So I left with no plan in 2009 and took a 2-month vacation. And then January of 2010, ran across one of our massive amount of infomercial gurus.
Yeah.
Went to an event and took the course and just started progressing from there.
You're kind of hooked. Yeah. Did you know, had you had any interest in all that 28 years in corporate world, either doing your own thing or real estate investing at all?
One of my responsibilities was, leases and building stores and taking down stores and closing them and so on and so on. So I was around it and I liked it. But when I left the corporate world, I had no plan of being in real estate.
Right.
So I really didn't know where my passion lied at that time. And my wife and I went on multiple 2-week vacations for 2 months and kind of found out where my passion was, what I really truly like to do.
Yep. Yeah. So what is that though? At that point you hadn't really discovered real estate. It was just I love creating. Taking something, whether it was in the corporate world and building a store
or whether it was hiring an employee and building him up to be a certain level of a manager,
Yeah.
creating that is what I really enjoy creating.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Awesome. So you went to some boot camps and got some
Yep.
training and got hooked, huh?
Yep, got hooked.
Yeah.
As they say, when you jump into, I jumped all in, 100%.
Yeah.
I was working 105 hours a week, week in and week out. So I knew if I just focused that 100 hours or more a week, I could be successful at whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I invested about 80 to 90 hours a week when I first started, and I went everywhere. I networked, I got educated, I went and learned as much as I could. And from January 2010 all the way to September was before I got my first deal. So I didn't get my first deal for basically 9 months.
Wow.
And I just kept pushing and pushing and getting educating. And I went to Arizona, Oregon, Florida, Utah. I went everywhere to learn this business. And rehabbing was our objective, not wholesaling.
Okay.
So I got into it, and then I began to realize it wasn't about what you know, it was who you knew. So I began collaborating, and that's when we started to really build our business fast.
Yeah.
So the first 3 years, I started collaborating with other guys out there. And between the three of us, we did over 200 deals in 3 years. So I knew I wasn't going to be rehabbing forever, because I knew just off of what I came out of that it's all about the numbers and it's all about the demand. So I knew rehabbing wasn't going to be around forever for me in Southern California.
Right. Right.
So I knew I wanted to be building. I just didn't know how fast I was going to be able to get to that point of building new homes.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about in that 9 months that took you to kind of get your first deal. It's funny when you get, there's a lot of things you do in life where it takes you a long time. And when you look back, it's like, okay, now I can start the presses. Like it's just something clicks where you're like, okay, now I get it. What kind of advice, if people are listening now, and because most people think, well, I'm going to make the decision to start today, and in a week or two I'll have a deal. And it took me 4 months to get my first deal. And we had built a team, and we're spending money on advertising and all sorts of stuff. But kind of talk a little bit about, the lessons learned during that period of time, and how you could advise somebody to climb that curve maybe faster.
Collaborations. It is truly about who you know. We are not only a cyclical industry, we are also a relationship-based industry. So you got to really be in it to know people. If you're a recluse, if you're very, very withdrawn from meeting people, engaging, interacting, working, collaborating, it'll be real tough.
Yeah.
So you got to get out of that comfort zone, or out of that fear factor, if you will, and get into knowing people, meeting people, and being around people that are doing what you want to be doing.
Yep. I agree with that. Yeah. So talk a little bit about your kind of transition. So you started rehabbing, and then when did the building did an opportunity pop up, and it was like an aha moment, or what happened?
Well, I came out of I was a forecaster, and I still am. So I came out of the numbers of what you do next. Numbers will tell you what to do if you just pay attention. So I knew with the dropping of inventory and the climbing of people coming into the business, it was out of balance. So if you've got a 3-month stockpile of inventory and you've got an excess of amount of competitors at a high percentage, sooner or later that stockpile is going to go away very fast. So I knew that sooner or later I was going to start looking at land, because I wanted to stay in real estate. So in the cycle of real estate, what is your next strategy? What is your next thing you should be paying attention to? So in San Diego, Southern California, I just started paying attention to land in 2012. I told several agents I was interested. And by the end of 2012, we had our first land deal. So I started to learn how to analyze land. I started to learn how to build, because in the rehabbing world, everybody who's listening, who's a rehabber, you're rehabbing at $1 per square foot. So you're building at $1 per square foot. So all you got to do is just transition the knowledge of the remodel into the structure of bringing something out of the ground at $1 per square foot.
Right.
Because that's the world I stay in. I stay in the $1 per square foot.
Right.
Everybody talks about ARV. Well, my ARV is still the same acronym, but it's appraised retail value. So in the end in mind, what is that house going to appraise for?
Right, right.
So I work with that, and I work with what it cost at $1 per square foot to go vertical.
Yeah. So did you start off with, I guess that first deal you did, or when you started off, was it more of just an infill lot, like there's an opportunity to build
Yes.
there? Okay.
Yes.
And then that probably evolved to, hey, we could buy some land and develop several properties on
Yes.
there or something like, yeah. So kind of talk about that general transition, because at the end of the day, I know for me, that's rehabbed a lot of houses. I've never picked up a hammer. I don't do any of the work myself. And at that point, it's just a matter of, can I find the right people to do the
Right.
right thing, and is it cost effective, and can I make money doing it? So
Right.
maybe talk, but I know it's not as simple as that. But talk a
Right.
little bit about that transition and kind of the mindset you have to have.
I've like you. I've never have a license. I've never got into learning being a contractor. Um, I'm the orchestrator, if you will. So I'm the guy who goes and hires the people that are licensed to be doing what I need them to do. Whether it's my civil engineer, structural architect, soils testing guy, I mean, just whoever they are, I hire them.
Yeah.
So they're all subcontracted. When I was rehabbing, you're hiring the contractor. You should be hiring a general contractor, licensed, or you're hiring, these handymen, if you will, and you're just controlling what they do. Well, from the flip side of that, the contractors I'm hiring already know what they have to do because they get a set of plans.
Right.
So the set of plans come to them, and it is in black and white on what you have to do. So that is your scope of work, if you will. And then they run with what they know to do, and they submit the bid to me. On the rehabbing side, you're having to submit a scope of work and a budget and on, and you're kind of trying to organize all this stuff you want done for a certain dollar amount. And most are very good at it, and a lot of people have, a lot of issues in meeting that budget, and before you know it, they're $5,000, $10,000 over.
Right.
Cuts into the profits. Well, when I have a set of plans and the bid submitted to me, it's in black and white, it's in stone. That's coming up out of the ground, and or horizontal work, that's getting done at that dollar amount, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I deal with a lot of factual stuff where in the rehabbing world, you're kind of on that iffy world of, oh, I hope we don't open a wall and we got wood rot or termite damage.
Yeah. There's a lot of unknowns. Yeah.
Yeah. So my world is a lot of knowns. You know what you're getting into. As long as you buy at the right price, build at the right cost, sell at the right price, you will have a profit margin that is already put in place.
Yeah, that's great. Now, this is going to be different in every market, but in your experience, is kind of the permitting and all that kind of planning phase easier for a new build, or how's it different than like a rehab?
Yeah, it depends on the city. And certain things that I deal with are time-consuming things, if you will. Whether it's the architect taking several weeks to do the design, or whether it's the city planner approving your plans. But I'm always prepared for that. So yes, it will be a longer process, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is you fill your pipeline, like right now for me, I've got 11 projects going right now. That's 11 single family homes. And in my pipeline, there's 77. So if I wanted to buy everything today, I could. If I had all the money in the world, I'd go buy 77 of these projects today. So my pipeline's always filling. So coming in, going out. So even in the rehab world, you should always have a good pipeline.
Right.
I always had 4 or 5 going at one time, 2 or 3 coming in, 2 or 3 going out. And that centerpiece is always liquid, where you're managing 4, 5, 6 projects at one time.
Yeah.
So your pipeline is really important, as well as your contacts, as well as your collaborations, as well as getting into knowing what you know to be true. In the rehabbing world, it's really hard to nail down what you know to be true, even off of a home inspection. Where I get a soils report off of a lot that I'm going to buy, I know that to be true.
Right.
So I know if I can build or not.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you see people facing that are trying to go from being a rehabber or fixing and flipping houses to moving into building. What are some of the challenges that people might face?
Knowledge is number one. It's not hard to get educated on doing what I do. I had no intentions of becoming a contractor. So get that out of the way. I didn't want to be a general contractor.
Yeah.
So all I did was just get educated on how these developers out there were structuring their deals, whether it was who they hired or how they got the financing, whatever it was, learn how to structure the deal. And then I just started to hire the right people and build the right team. Just like in the rehabbing world, you got to have the right team.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right people around you, you will get hurt. No doubt about it. I hear it every single week, even at the REHAB meetings. Yeah, this happened to me or this happened to me. And I'm like, well, how did you let that happen?
Yeah.
So one of the things I got really good at, because in the world that I was in before, I was hiring and firing people every week. So I got really good at interviewing when I was in that world. So I just transitioned that into interviewing the right contractors and the right people. So the interview process, it's, hire slowly, fire quickly. And one of the things that I did for myself was put the right people on my team. And that is what every rehabber, even if you're never, ever going to do another thing today, learn how to interview and learn how to hire the right people. Because once you get that skill down, you can hire anybody for anything.
Right, right. So in this space with the new build, do you have a general contractor type person that is managing most of the subcontractors, or are you still doing that? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So I have 3 general contractors. They're the project manager. All of them are responsible for the budget because they've already submitted their bid to me. So they had all their subcontractors submit their bids to him. He submits his bid to me.
Okay.
So that GC is responsible for that project.
Okay. Okay. And then you kind of alluded to this, but talk about, for folks that may be fearful that they don't have experience doing those things. I mean,
well, even in the rehabbing world, if and you and I were talking about this a little while ago, if you think back to the very first second or minute you were deciding to do what you wanted to do and you didn't have that knowledge, there was possibly a level of fear or a level of apprehension, one of the two. So once you got exposed and you gained the knowledge, everything just became a little easier as you went along. So one thing about this is if you're going to transition your business from rehabbing to new development, you can look at it in multiple facets or multiple steps, if you will. Rehabbing today. So what would be my next step? Well, your next project, maybe you buy something where you add square footage. So you get used to knowing the permit process, architect and design process, structural engineer process. You do that aspect first, where you add 500 square feet. Because if you're selling at $200 or $300 a square foot on a home, and you can add that value at $100 to $125 a square foot, why wouldn't you do it?
right,
As long as the sales are there.
right,
If the sales are there, if you've got a market where the demand for 1,800, 2,000, 2,500 square foot homes are there, why not take that 1,000 square foot home and increase the value?
yep,
So you add value at the right cost, which then impacts your profit margin. Because if you're approaching it from a standpoint of let's rehab, dump 40,000 into it and sell it and make 25, 30K. Well, if you add value to it,
absolutely,
you add square footage and you go and sell at a higher dollar price point, you could possibly double or triple your net very easily. Net profit could be very, very well rewarded.
Yeah, that's a hot topic right now in terms of adding space and adding on, especially in markets that are selling for well above the build price.
Yeah, and it's in any market that is very doable for any rehabber out there. Yeah. I see so many rehabbers approach it from 2 standpoints: wholesale it if I can get 10K, or rehab it if I can get 30K. So why would you go that route? Why not look at it from another 3rd or 4th standpoint of if I add value, what can I get?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting in terms of the transition. I think anybody that is has rehabbed, you can't have just done one, but if you've done a lot, so for example, I've had people ask me in the past, because I've done a bunch of houses, so they assume I know everything, which I don't know. When you start to realize what you know versus what you don't know, it's like, I don't, it's not that I know everything, but you start to have this confidence of when people say, well, what did you do when this happened to you? I can say, that's never happened to me, but here's what I would do. You just get this confidence of, hey, I'm a problem solver.
Right.
And so I think in terms of people that may have some concern about transitioning, if you have rehabbed enough, you've solved, the same thing doesn't happen to you twice. It's like every time it's going to be a new experience, right?
Yeah, there's always something new happening.
Yeah, yeah. But well, talk about kind of markets where this is possible, because we were talking before the show here. In some markets where the houses are selling for below build price,
Yep.
there's not really an opportunity there like there is in other parts. But just kind of talk about where this opportunity comes up, and we'll maybe take a second and talk about how infill lots even happen. Like, how does that even happen?
There's multiple ways things are happening out there with dirt. One of the biggest ways is a subdivision was built and the guy didn't have enough money to finish out the subdivision, and there could have been, a plan for 650 homes, and he left, 30, 40, 50, 60 of them unfinished and just failed. Those are out there. Those are out everywhere out there.
Yeah.
Infill is something that is being repurposed. So it could already have a structure, meaning it's got a 100-year-old home on it, and you're going to go buy that, scrape it, and add value to the land and add value to the neighborhood via building a brand new 2,500 square foot home. So infill exists in multiple ways. One of the things that any market right now, and you got to, anybody who's listening right now to this needs to understand, you got to get really, really good at analyzing. And that way, when somebody gives you something in a zip code, you know that zip code inside and out. Because even though a lot of markets don't have this, they do have it. You just don't realize it, because inside of your market are micro markets. And those micro pockets can either be a home where you can add value, a tear down, or there's an existing infill lot. One of those three. So those three areas just alone can really be beneficial for somebody who's in rehabbing today and knows their neighborhoods per zip code, let's say, and you understand what's going on inside that zip code. So if the zip code is really, really a hot zip code, find the home that can be added on or scraped or subdivided. That's another approach. So there's a lot of things that are happening in a lot of markets that in our cycle that we're in that will enable you to build brand new and be very profitable. But also within those markets, there's micro markets that maybe not be at that level of a dollar per square foot sale, but instead of $200 per square foot, it's selling at $150. So even at $150, if you're buying at $90 a square foot and adding value, it's still there. So inside the market are always micro markets, and you got to get really good at analyzing those. Even though the zip code may have, a vast area of coverage, still within that zip code there could be little markets that can literally help you determine how to go forward and be profitable on a project.
Yeah, what's funny is that the timing is funny on this, because in the past week we received a notice from there was a city of Carrollton, which is a suburb of Dallas. They had some infill lot building project, and I have a rental property, and they just apparently you could vote on this. I don't know who would vote against this, but they wanted to do infill building around where I have this rental property, and there's a few block area where they were kind of announcing it. And my first thought was, well, where are there vacant lots there? And then they showed a map, and there are a ton of them. Like I never even noticed them, because it's not something I ever,
It's that reticular activator. You know how you want to buy a blue Nissan, and nobody's driving a blue Nissan Maxima today, but boy, you buy that one, everybody's got one around you.
Yeah.
It's that reticular activator that takes effect once you're exposed to where the land is, because I guarantee everybody who's listening, you're driving by it today and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
And the one thing that land or lots or infill lots, however you want to label them, the one thing that's truly going on is there's no competition, really. Yeah. So transitioning out of rehabbing into being a developer that I am today, I started ignoring the rehabs that were coming at me because the margins were shrinking, and I started focusing my laser focus on land around me.
Right.
So I really began to see all these lots that were there. And I was like, well, holy cow, how do I go about buying that?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're there. They
I
are
could see there being a lot less competition, because even the traditional builders, they generally don't want to do infill projects. They want to go build hundreds of houses somewhere on a tract of land, right? So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So talk about the money side of this. So, I think with real estate investors, anybody that's been in this business for a while, you had to figure out where to get money at, right? How does it differ for new builds?
Well, every rehabber or wholesaler or real estate investor, that is always the key factor in their success that I've seen.
Hmm.
A lot of people approach this business from a standpoint of find the right deal, find the right deal, find the right deal. Well, why would you be trying to find the right deal and not finding the right money? Because there's good money and there's bad money. So you got to decide how you're going to go forward with any project out there and how you're going to put that money in place. For me, I got really good, and that's something I did right out of the gate because I was dealing with a lot of money. You got to keep in mind, my mindset back in 2009 and backwards, I was all around money. I mean, I had 44 million just in control, just me alone. So I knew doing this business, I knew going into any kind of business, money was going to be the key aspect of your success or not.
Right.
If you don't have the money, you don't have the project, flat out. You can't do this business without having the money. So I got really good at networking for money. I came out of the gate looking for money, hunting and literally going after every little circle I could and learn who was in that circle and whether or not they wanted to invest in real estate. And a lot of my circles began to develop around the IRA world. So the IRA funder right now is really big with me. All my private lenders have an IRA, and it's self-directed, and it's at certain levels. Might be 50,000, might be almost $1 million, and they fund my projects with their IRA. So I got really good with networking with IRA holders.
Okay.
And they're all around. They are everywhere you go. Usually there's somebody around you with an IRA.
Sure. Yep.
So the money aspect for me, I've dealt with hard money lenders. I've dealt with gap funders. I've dealt with banks, still am. I've dealt with all different types of what you call brokers, whether it's a credit line broker or whether it's a broker who's trying to connect two people together and receive a finder fee.
Yeah.
So I've dealt with money in different levels, all different levels. And for me, and what's been working for me is the IRA holder.
Okay.
So you can find that IRA holder very easily just by networking with the custodial people, whether it's you direct or anybody else out there.
Mm-hmm.
These people can connect you. They can't recommend you, but they can connect you. And that's what I got really good at.
And so, and just to clarify, though, the traditional lender that folks might be using, whether it's a hard money lender or some sort of private money lender, they are, would you say the hard money lenders aren't typically going to lend on building deals, right?
Not, they do here now.
Yeah.
When I started 3 years ago, they weren't. Nobody from a hard money standpoint wanted to lend me the money until one guy stepped up and he decided to start dabbling in it 3 years ago. Now I've got about 5 hard money lenders always pitching me on what they will loan. And they weren't there for me back 3 years ago, yet my IRA investors were, so I'm very loyal to my IRA investors. So I haven't had a hard money loan for over 3 years.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and I guess all the lenders have had to either
they had to adjust.
They've had to evolve or adjust, or you know, there's so much competition in that space now.
And I knew it too, because if you look at it from a standpoint of demand and competition, and if the inventories are dropping and the competition's climbing, one thing surely is going to happen. The loan count is going to drop for the hard money lender. It's going to drop. So if they are dropping in loan count, if they're dropping in volume, then what do? Well, they got to start developing other products. Could be a buy and hold product, could be a lower interest rate product, or they can transition into new construction. Yeah. Because they can finance new construction. If you bring the land free and clear to them, they can finance it if they want to. Mm-hmm. They just don't have it in their descriptions of what they do under their regulations. Right. So they can get their descriptions changed and be in the new construction, arena if they want. Sure.
Yep. All right. Awesome. Well, Leo, any kind of words of wisdom here you want to share with people that maybe are rehabbing now and might want to kind of transition into this space?
If anyone's out there thinking about it, they can email me, clark11@cox.net. I'm really easy to get a hold of. I'm on Facebook very heavily. That's my platform. I don't have a website. I choose to not have a website. I go the route of social media, as well as, what the market demands. A lot of people want to be networking, 24/7 almost, it seems. So to find me is really easy on Facebook. It's either my name on Facebook, Leo Clark, or it's Crest Investment Group, which is my business page. And we can network, and I can kind of guide anyone out there and tell them what they should start thinking about. Because one thing for sure, you got to get educated. And anything you do, over the 5.5 years almost I've been doing this, I've dumped a lot of money into my education. And I'm proud to do it. And I continuously do it. Everybody should always be getting educated by any means possible. And that's one thing that kind of propelled me into being an educator, to help people to understand what they truly need to do. Because if this is a business that you want to do, and that's, I think, the biggest determining factor is, do people really want to do this? Because it is not easy.
Yep.
We all know it's not easy.
Yeah.
But if you want to do this, then you got to get educated. You got to invest in yourself. And then once you've done that, then you got to really develop a business plan and approach it from a standpoint of a corporation, because you're a CEO of a corporation. You developed and bought your LLC, S Corp, or C Corp. You labeled yourself the president or the CEO. You need to treat it like a corporation. That's the biggest mistake I see out there happening.
Yep.
They don't treat it like a corporation, and yet they are a corporate officer.
Right.
So you got to look at it from that standpoint. And then once you start to treat this like a business, a corporate business, certain things will begin to change.
Yep.
And one of the things that will change are the people that come into your world, because they see you treating it differently. So my biggest tip is decide if you want to do it. If you're going to do it, invest in yourself, and then treat it like a business, and literally go forward. Whatever you're going to do, go forward with a plan. So yeah, if you're going to be in this, decide to be in this in whatever fashion that is. Whatever you're going to do, decide, make the decision. You have a choice. So once you've made that choice, treat it like a corporation, because you started your LLC or S Corp and you've made that decision to be a corporation. So treat it like that. You're a corporate officer, you're CEO or president or whatever you may be. Treat it like a corporation, and your world will start to change on who comes into your world, because they will know that you're serious about taking this business that you've developed to another level. So that'd be my biggest tip is, go forward treating this like a corporation and never stop networking ever.
Great. Leo, thanks for joining us today. We're going to add links for all your contact information down below here for those that want to find you. So appreciate your time, and we definitely wish you all the best.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the time with you, Mike.
Yeah, good to see you.
I love what you do, too. I love the heck out of FlipNerd. I love what you do.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.